You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to a special New Year's Eve edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. This is it, the last show of 2021. Man alive, what a crazy year this was. We thought nothing could be worse than 2020. Towards the end, 2021 was making a good run at it. But I'll tell you, New Year's is one of my favorite holidays. Great chance for new beginnings, to start over, make New Year's resolutions and actually stick to them. Obviously, I don't know what 2022 has in store, but I do love this time of year. Watching the ball drop, celebrating New Year's Day. It's just a fun time of year. I've got to start with college football. And let me just say right off the top, I'm going to go chronologically. So, I'll talk about yesterday's games in order, today's games in order, tomorrow's games in order. I think that's the easiest way to do this. That means that I'm going to start with the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I swear, South Carolina is not supposed to have an offense capable of putting up 38 points. I swear, they're really not this good offensively. Like, if you go back to yesterday's show, I purposely skipped over the Gamecocks' offense. I didn't think you needed to worry about him. Evidently, the Gamecocks ate their Wheaties or something because they looked like a team possessed. Long bomb after long bomb after long bomb. Big run after big run after big run. UNC just looked lost. They looked woefully ill-prepared for South Carolina. Now, I understand that you probably spent more time focusing on your offense than your defense. You thought, oh, this Gamecocks offense is terrible, so we don't have to worry about them. Let's just focus on our offense and put Sam Howell in as good a position as possible to make a ton of money. If he balls out in this game, his draft stock will go up, so he'll get a bigger contract. That's all well and good, but you still need to focus a little bit on the defense. UNC just looked lost. They looked woefully ill-prepared for everything that South Carolina threw at them. You cannot allow this Gamecocks team to put up 543 total yards of offense. You know what their previous season high was? 459 against Florida. They're really not supposed to be this good. You're watching it, and it's just like, did I just enter the Twilight Zone or something? What's going on here? It was a terrible job by UNC. Every Tar Heel defensive player should be absolutely ashamed of himself. As for how Sam Howell did, he wasn't awful. He completed 12 of 20 passes for 205 yards, and he threw a touchdown pass. The thing is, though, UNC only went 1 for 10 on third down. From an eye test perspective, Howell definitely didn't make the grade. Like, it's kind of interesting. I have said for a while that playing in your bowl game can help your draft stock. And it can. Like, if Sam Howell balled out in this game, yeah, he'd be the rock-solid third best quarterback in this draft. But after watching that performance, there's a slight opening for a guy like Desmond Ridder to move past Howell. It all depends on how Ridder does against Alabama. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let's head over now to the Music City Bowl. Purdue versus Tennessee. This was by far and away the best bowl game that we've had so far. Jordan Rogers was doing color commentary for it. He said that this game is drunk. Yeah, this game was drunk. There were 4 touchdowns scored in just under 3.5 minutes. You had a controversial call that, in essence, knocked Tennessee out of the running in overtime. It was honestly a crazy game. Like, I understand if you're not a big college football fan, you probably didn't have much of an interest in this game. And some people say there are too many bowl games. No. No. You should have watched this game. I don't think we have too many bowl games. I think we have it right. I mean, for goodness sake, both of these teams had over 600 total yards of offense. It featured everything you could want. Tennessee storming out to a big lead in the first quarter. Purdue coming back and taking the lead just before halftime. A back and forth third quarter. A crazy fourth quarter. An iconic moment in overtime. This game had everything you could possibly want. Now give Aiden O'Connell a ton of credit. Here's a guy who came into this game without his 2 big receivers. No David Bell and no Milton Wright. So he had to rely on the B team. Boy, oh boy, did the B team show up. 4 Boilermakers had over 60 receiving yards. 3 had receiving touchdowns. 5 had multiple catches. It was insane to watch O'Connell do this without his 2 best wide receivers. Like, I understand it's apples and oranges, NFL versus college football. I totally get that. But I just go back to the Jets-Saints game. No Elijah Moore and no Corey Davis for Zach Wilson. And Wilson has one of his worst games. Aiden O'Connell is without his two best wide receivers, he has the game of his life. He completed 26 of 47 passes for 534 yards and 5 touchdowns. I understand that he threw 3 interceptions, but he made the B team of wide receivers, Brock Thompson, Payne Durham, Jackson Anthrop, and TJ Sheffield, look a lot better than they actually are. The mark of an elite quarterback is making bad wide receivers look good. God only knows if Aiden O'Connell has an NFL future ahead of him. I will tell you, he is coming back to Purdue. He's going to try to prove that what happened this year wasn't an aberration. I think that's smart. But you've got to give O'Connell a ton of credit for what he did in this game. This was by far and away the best performance of his career, with the entire sports world watching. That means something. I mean, towards the end of the game, the Nets game had started and the Peach Bowl had started. I didn't turn the Music City Bowl off. I couldn't. I was enthralled by it. I wanted to see the end of the game. What's going to happen next? That's the mark of a great football game. That's the mark of a great sporting event. When your favorite team is playing, and you have 2 ranked teams going at it, but you're so enthralled by this event that you can't turn it off. That is absolutely incredible. Now, give Hendon Hooker credit. You can make the argument that Hooker was actually better than O'Connell, as crazy as that sounds. Hooker completed 26 of 41 passes for 378 yards and 5 touchdowns. Didn't turn the ball over. He did turn the ball over when he was running with it. He put the ball on the ground 3 times. He lost one of them. But through the air, he was really good. He had 19 carries for 59 yards. Give Jabari Small credit. He showed up. I didn't think he would. Job well done by him. Give Cedric Tillman and Velus Jones Jr. credit. They showed up. I told you they would. This was a crazy game. And it came down to a controversial play. It's 4th and goal at the 1-yard line in overtime. Hooker hands the ball off to Jalen Wright. Wright is trying to power his way into the end zone. He falls on top of a Boilermaker. He sticks the football out. It crosses the goal line. Seemingly, it's a Volunteers touchdown. In fact, the whistle had blown after the ball crossed the goal line. But the referees got together and ruled that Wright's forward progress had been stopped before he crossed the goal line. Now, one thing that I did not know in that spot, the whistle is irrelevant. It's just when his forward progress was ruled to have stopped. Obviously, that's going to be before the whistle is blown. You have to identify the forward progress is stopped, then blow the whistle. So naturally, it's going to be before the whistle's blown. But I had no idea that was the rule. The thing is, though, how do you rule that his forward progress had stopped when he falls on top of a Boilermaker? It's not like he refused to go down and there's just a big, massive bodies pushing in both directions, so he's not going anywhere. No, you had right on top of one Boilermaker. Another Boilermaker was trying to bring him down also. And then there's another volunteer trying to pull him into the end zone. I just don't understand how you rule that forward progress had stopped. Forward progress shouldn't stop until it's impossible for him to go any further. He could still go. On the next drive, Purdue kicks a game-winning field goal. Volunteers fans have every right to be upset. That's a tough way to lose a game. The thing is, though, while you have a right to be upset at the referees, they're not the seminal reason that you lost. The seminal reason that you lost was the failure by your team to punch the ball in when you had 1st and goal at the 2-yard line. It was 1st and goal at the 2, then 2nd and goal at the 8, 3rd and goal at the 3, finally 4th and goal at the 1. So you had 3 big chances before this to punch the ball in, and you failed. And not for nothing, but your first down play on a goal-to-go situation to put the onus on Purdue to score a touchdown, to extend the game, your quarterback gets sacked for a 6-yard loss. That's not going to work for me. That's why you lost. And one could also make the argument that you lost because your defense was absolutely atrocious, but both defenses were absolutely atrocious, so I'm not going to focus on that. You have a right to be upset at the referees. It's okay that ruling left a bad taste in your mouth. That's okay. That's fair. That's reasonable. The thing is, though, it's not why you lost. You lost because you couldn't punch the ball in on 1st and goal at the 2. Get upset at that more than you're getting upset at the referees. Moving on now to the Peach Bowl, Pittsburgh versus MSU. An epic choke job by the Panthers. You're up 21-10 entering the 4th quarter, and you give up 21 unanswered points in the 4th quarter. Even when you had the chance to take the lead late or tie the game late, you give up a 78-yard pick 6. That is absolutely atrocious. I've watched that play a few times now. I have no idea what Davis Bevel was doing there. I understand that he didn't see Holiday. Like, he was focused on his receiver running the slant. But how do you not see the big linebacker in the green jersey? I just don't understand that. I'll tell you, Kenny Pickett wouldn't have made that throw. If Kenny Pickett was the quarterback, you would have won this game. Now, some people are going to come to Pickett's defense and say, look at what happened to Nick Patty. Patty started this game at quarterback. He got hurt diving for the end zone. He ended up getting the touchdown, but he also broke his collarbone. So now you see all the people saying, hey, this is why Pickett didn't play. He was right to abandon his team, prepare for the future, do all that good stuff. The thing is, though, you don't know what would have happened there if Kenny Pickett was behind center. Maybe he withstands the hit. Maybe he tries to force the throw. Maybe he runs out of bounds. You don't know. There are so many variables with that. Like, look, I feel bad for Patty. Alright, here's his chance to show what he can do on a national level. He's playing behind Kenny Pickett, a Heisman Trophy finalist. He finally gets into a game, and he gets hurt in the first quarter. I feel really bad for Patty. But you don't know if Pickett would have gotten hurt also. You just don't. Also, here's the thing. A broken collarbone, while it's a serious injury, there's no question about that, it's not a death sentence. It's what, 6 to 8 weeks? Maybe 8 to 12? Oh my god, so he won't participate in the combine. Oh my god, so he won't participate in the pro day. Tua Tagovailoa was injury prone at Alabama. He was taken 5th overall. 1 pick ahead of Justin Herbert. Alright, I don't think this injury would have affected Pickett's draft stock too much. Maybe it would have. Maybe. But I still think it would have been better for him to show what he could do against this Spartans team. Come on, what's better? Him winning a bowl game? Or him just watching the game and watching his team choke this game away? Watching the third-string quarterback play. I mean, come on, no one wants that. At the end of the day, what happened was this. Pittsburgh was unable to withstand Kenny Pickett's absence. Totally understandable. MSU was able to withstand Kenneth Walker's absence because they have a talented quarterback in Peyton Thorne. I mean, the fact that Thorne led that fourth quarter comeback, that means something. And he completed 29 of 50 passes for 354 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yes, he fumbled the ball away in the third quarter, which resulted in Pittsburgh taking a 21-10 lead. But he also led the Spartans back in the fourth quarter. That's a little more impressive. Outstanding job by Thorne. Congrats to him. And I still don't like what Kenny Pickett did. Football's a violent game, alright? Not for nothing, but he can't go his whole life trying to avoid injuries if his goal is to be an NFL quarterback. I can promise you, his first NFL start, he will get hit at least once. It just makes no sense to me. I hate it. Hate it. Moving on now to the Las Vegas Bowl. ASU versus Wisconsin. And I was right. This was a ground and pound game. Old school smash mouth football. At the end of the day, though, the Badgers were just exponentially better at it than the Sun Devils. I told you to keep an eye out for Braylon Allen. I knew he'd be a big part of this game. Believe it or not, I actually know a little bit about sports. The guy had 29 carries for 159 yards. This kid's a freshman. He's 17 years old. And that's the performance that he just put out there. It's incredible. You think about the great running backs that Wisconsin has had in their history. Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon, Monty Bull, Ron Dane. Braylon Allen has the potential to be better than all of them. The sky's the limit for this kid. Alright, now it's time to preview today's and tomorrow's bowl games. Like I said, I'm going to go chronologically. So that means I am going to start with the Gator Bowl. Rutgers versus Wake Forest. Initially, this was supposed to be Wake Forest versus Texas A&M, which would have been an infinitely better matchup. But A&M had a COVID outbreak, so in came these Scarlet Knights. May God have mercy on their souls. This is going to be a rout. This game is going to be over by halftime. Wake Forest and Rutgers are not in the same universe. Look, I understand that Greg Schiano has done an excellent job with that program, like he did before. There's no question about it. Greg Schiano is the best head coach in Rutgers history. Not even up for debate. Obviously, he laid an egg with the Buccaneers, but some coaches just aren't meant to be in the NFL. The thing is, though, Rutgers went 5-7. Like, they're not good. Look at the teams that they beat this year. Temple, Syracuse, Delaware, Illinois, and Indiana. If your best win is against the Illini, you're not a good team. In weeks 4 to 6, they faced 3 straight ranked teams. The Wolverines, the Buckeyes, and the Spartans. They only scored 13 points in all 3 of those games. Wake Forest is going to embarrass Rutgers here. Sam Hartman's going to throw for 500 yards. I mean, I understand why the Gator Bowl did this. A&M pulled out a week ago yesterday. So you had a little bit of time to find an opponent. But why wasn't that opponent a team like Memphis? Their bowl game was canceled because Hawaii had a COVID outbreak. What about East Carolina? You can't get them from Maryland to Florida in 4 days? NC State probably would have jumped at the opportunity to play in the Gator Bowl. SMU probably could have. I just don't understand why we didn't try to get the other team in the canceled bowl games. Like we did this for the Sun Bowl. Central Michigan, Washington State. Central Michigan wasn't supposed to be in the Sun Bowl. It was supposed to be Miami. Miami withdrew. Boise State withdrew from the Arizona Bowl. So Central Michigan was left without a bowl game. The Sun Bowl said, come to El Paso. Why couldn't we do that for the Gator Bowl? Isn't that better than seeing Rutgers get their doors blown off? And think about the kids for a minute. Their last game was a 40-16 drubbing by Maryland on November 27th. So they're probably thinking, you know what, we went 5-7, we're not bowl eligible. Let's go home. Let's forget about football for a little bit. Let's rest and recover. Get ready for the holidays. I don't want to think about playing football for a little bit. Imagine their surprise when a Rutgers representative or a Gator Bowl representative, whoever it was, said, hey, you're now playing in the Gator Bowl. Pack your stuff. You're going to Jacksonville. It's not like they had a lot of time to get ready for this game. This was announced on December 23rd. So that's 8 days to get ready for a bowl game. Come on, this isn't going to work. This is going to be a rout. This game's going to be over by halftime. Wake Forest is going to win this game. They're favored by -17. You know what? Give me the Demon Deacons. Moving on now to the Sun Bowl. We have Central Michigan going up against Washington State, like I said. The Chippewas are a really good team this year. Like, give Jim McElwain a ton of credit. I thought he was treated really unfairly at Florida. I thought he should have gotten more than 3 years. But Florida is one of those schools where if you don't win the national title, the season's a failure. It's why Will Muschamp didn't work. It's why Dan Mullen didn't work. It's a very tough place to coach. But McElwain has done a really good job with Central Michigan. Daniel Richardson is a solid quarterback. He completed over 61% of his passes this year for just under 2,400 yards, 23 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. But the key to the Chippewas' success is Lou Nichols. Nichols is easily one of the best running backs in the nation. He had over 1,700 rushing yards. He had 15 touchdowns. He led the nation in rushing yards this year. He's an outstanding player. Khalil Pimpleton, Dallas Dixon, and Ja'Cory Sullivan are 3 very talented wide receivers. And the Chippewas' O-line is stacked. Bernard Raymond, Tyden Ferris, Jamez Kimbrough, Deontay Powell-Woods, and Luke Goedeke form one of the best O-lines in the nation. Defensively, you've got to look out for Troy Brown, Troy Hairston II, Alonzo McCoy, Gage Kresge, Devonnie Reed. This Chippewas team played better than an 8-4 team. The thing that really doomed them was their tough non-conference schedule. They had 2 SEC games. Now, granted, it wasn't against the class of the SEC. It was Missouri and LSU, but still, if the Chippewas had scheduled easier opponents, they very easily could have been 10-2. They were that good. Meanwhile, you look at the Cougars. They're a tough team to get a handle on. They fired Nick Rolovich midway through his second season. Jake Dickert took over, didn't do much better. They're just a tough team to figure out. I'll say this, Jaden Delora is a good quarterback. He completed 64.5% of his passes for over 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He's a solid player. Max Borghe's a good running back. He had 880 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. Calvin Jackson Jr. and Travell Harris are a really good wide receiver duo. They both had over 60 catches. They both had over 800 receiving yards. They both had at least 7 touchdowns. They're a good duo. Defensively, I'm not in love with them. I like Ron Stone Jr., I like Armani Marsh, and I like George Hicks III, but that's about it. All in all, the Chippewas are better coached. They're just a better team. They have more firepower. I'm going with Central Michigan. Alright, now it's time to get into the CFP games. I'll start with the Cotton Bowl, Cincinnati versus Alabama. A lot of people are writing off the Bearcats here. Like, they're not giving them a snowball's chance in hell. And I get it, right? This is Alabama. They're Alabama. Bryce Young just won the Heisman Trophy. Nick Saban's a living legend. They're freaking Alabama. Do I need to say any more than that? And this little old team from the AAC is going to come in and crash their party. The first ever Group of 5 team to be in the CFP. See, the thing is, though, I don't want to write the Bearcats off. They were the only undefeated FBS team this year. That means something. I don't care if it's the AAC. That means something. You know, it's kind of funny. Everyone's focusing on the Bearcats' offense, Desmond Ridder and Jerome Ford. And look, I understand that Desmond Ridder had a really good year. And Jerome Ford was absolutely insane. I mean, he started his collegiate career at Alabama. He didn't get an opportunity. He transferred to Cincy. Now he rushed for over 1,200 yards and 19 touchdowns. And Alec Pierce is really good. 50 catches for 867 yards and 8 touchdowns. The thing is, though, that's not how Cincy's going to win this game. Cincy's not going to win this game by winning in a shootout or putting up 49 points. Alabama's defense is too good. But what they can do is limit the Crimson Tide offense. Now, I understand that this is an insane Alabama offense. Like I said, Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy. Brian Robinson Jr. ran for over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. Jamison Williams had over 1,400 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. The thing is, though, A, no John Mechie. That's really going to hurt the Crimson Tide. And B, this Cincinnati defense is stacked. Brian Cook, Kobe Bryant, Ahmad Gardner, Curtis Brooks, Joel Dublanco, Myjay Sanders, Darian Beavers, and Deshaun Pace are all good enough to be the best player on any given defense. The fact that they all play for the same team is insane. Excellent job of recruiting by Luke Fickell. Is it a tall ask to limit this stout Alabama offense that put up 42.5 points per game, the third best mark in the nation? Yes, of course it is. But it's not impossible. Like, the thing is, Cincinnati needs to play a perfect game to win this game. Is that impossible? No, because Texas A&M played close to a perfect game against Alabama. A&M won. Auburn played close to a perfect game. They nearly won the Iron Bowl. The John Mechie absence is key because it frees up a guy like Brian Cook, one of the best safeties in the nation, to constantly double Jamison Williams. And when I say constantly double, I mean every single play you double Jamison Williams. Make Slade Bolden beat you. Cincinnati does have a chance in this game, and I'm going to be rooting hard for them. Alright, I'm a big supporter of Group of 5 teams. I hate that the committee never takes them seriously. I really hope that Cincinnati, if they don't win, puts out a respectable performance. Like, don't make me turn the game off at halftime. But at the end of the day, Bryce Young is just too damn good. He'll find a way to beat you. This Alabama defense is too good. Jordan Battle, Will Anderson Jr., Jalen Armour Davis, Brian Branch, and guys like that. They're just too good. Cincinnati needs to play a perfect game to win. Alabama doesn't. That's the thing. Does Cincy have a prayer? The answer is yes. Never say never. But I've got to go with Alabama here. Moving on now to the Orange Bowl. Georgia versus Michigan. Let me tell you, this Michigan team is for real. Like, give Jim Harbaugh a ton of credit. This guy was getting criticized left, right, and center. I was killing him. I said, oh, he's overrated, get him out of there. You're never going to do anything with him. Michigan stuck with him. And make no mistake about it, this is the best Wolverines team they've had since the Lloyd Carr era. You remember in '97 when Michigan went undefeated? And they had that incredible defense led by Charles Woodson? That's how dominant this Michigan team is. Aiden Hutchinson is this year's Charles Woodson. I mean, this guy was a Heisman finalist. I understand that Woodson won it, but for Hutchinson to be a finalist, that's pretty impressive. The thing is, though, I don't like this matchup for Michigan. Are they a great team this year? The answer is yes. Jim Harbaugh got the monkey off his back. He beat OSU, and he creamed Iowa in the Big Ten title game. The thing is, though, how does Michigan win games? By running the ball down your throat. Hassan Haskins had just under 1,300 yards and 20 touchdowns. Blake Corum nearly had a 1,000-yard season, and he had 11 touchdowns. What's the one thing you know about Georgia? Their defense is phenomenal. Actually, their run defense is better than their pass defense. I don't think there's a question about that. Quite frankly, if I went through all the great Bulldogs defensive players, we'd be here until 2023. So look, there's a very easy path for Georgia to win this game. It's just stuff the run. You may say that's easier said than done when you're dealing with guys like Haskins and Corum, not with Georgia's defense. That is a very reasonable expectation. So how can Michigan win? Michigan can win by Aiden Hutchinson wreaking havoc. If he balls out in this game, he's the first overall pick. He can stake his claim to that over Thibodeau. And I'm looking at a guy like Cade McNamara to step up. I understand that he hasn't been asked to do that this year, but he's still the quarterback. Like, he's gotta put the team on his back here if Georgia stuffs the run, which I think they will. So McNamara needs to step up. A guy like Cornelius Johnson needs to step up. And guys other than Hutchinson need to step up defensively. I'm talking about guys like Brad Hawkins, DJ Turner, David Ojabo, Vincent Gray, Daxton Hill, etc., etc. I'm going to be rooting hard for Cincinnati, but I don't think they have a great chance against Alabama. Michigan does have a chance against Georgia. There is something to be said about Michigan being the 2 seed and Georgia being the 3 seed. Michigan was great this year. It was funny, when they had that loss against MSU, people thought, okay, here we go again. This is another good, not great Michigan team. They're not going to win a big game. I mean, they barely beat Penn State. Barely. They won 21-17, and it took a late touchdown pass from McNamara to win that game. I mean, I did not think they had a chance against the Buckeyes. They beat them pretty convincingly. And then they creamed Iowa. Michigan does have a chance in this game. They really do. If Cincinnati has like a 5% chance, Michigan has like a 30% chance. I mean, the last thing on earth I want is a Georgia-Alabama rematch in the national title game. Like, I already saw that matchup. I want to see a different one. I understand that there's nothing that can be done about it. Alright, you can make a very strong argument that those are the 2 best teams in the nation. The thing is, though, I remember in 2011 when LSU played Alabama in the regular season. LSU won 9-6. Then the BCS matched those 2 teams up against each other again. I had, like, no interest in that game. I mean, I said to my father, Dad, I'm not going to watch it. I already saw it. And you know what? I was proven right to not watch that game. That was a disaster. If you'll recall, Alabama won 21-0. There was only 1 touchdown scored in that game. It came in the 4th quarter by Trent Richardson. Now look, if these are the 2 best teams in the nation, let them go at it for the national title. Like, I get that. And I'm going to watch it, obviously. I just want to see a matchup that I haven't seen yet. But I don't think it's going to happen. I do not think this is a good matchup for Michigan. Georgia's run defense is going to be way too much. Stetson Bennett's going to have a good game. I do like him. I think he's a good quarterback. I've got to go with Georgia. All the SEC fans will be happy. Moving on now to the Outback Bowl, my mother's favorite bowl game, because she gets a free Outback appetizer regardless of who wins. I also live not that far from an Outback steakhouse. Like, I go there regularly. So I don't need an excuse to go there, but getting a free appetizer helps. If Arkansas wins, we'll get a free bloomin' onion. If Penn State wins, we'll get free coconut shrimp. I really, really hope it's Penn State. Just because, while their bloomin' onion is absolutely fantastic, I also feel like a fatso while eating it. Now, granted, I'm on the heavy side, but I don't need to be reminded of that while I'm shoving fried onions into my face. Coconut shrimp, I can eat and not feel bad about. Although it's kind of funny, my go-to entree at Outback, bloomin' fried chicken. Which is fried chicken prepared in the same way that they prepare the bloomin' onion. It's so good. But on to the game itself. I really liked both these teams once upon a time. Like, I really thought Arkansas could make a big run in the SEC. They beat Texas early. They beat Texas A&M early. Then they got creamed by Georgia. They gave up 52 points against Ole Miss. Granted, they scored 51, but still, you can't give up 52 points. Then they lost to Auburn. They lost to Alabama. It was a tough year. But I do like what Sam Pittman has going on there. I really like him. I think he's a very talented head coach. Arkansas's future is incredibly bright. I like KJ Jefferson. He completed over 2/3 of his passes this year for just under 2,600 yards. That's not that impressive, but his yards per attempt were just under 9.5. I like that. I like the 21 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. I like the option offense that they have. Treylon Burks is one of the best wide receivers in the nation. He had 67 catches for over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. What's not to love about this team? Defensively, they need some improvement. They have some solid players, but no world beaters. Monteric Brown, Bumper Poole, Grant Morgan, Joe Faucha, and Hayden Henry are all good players. I wouldn't call any of them great. That's what really held the Razorbacks back this year. No pun intended. Meanwhile, you look at the Nittany Lions. Once upon a time, we looked at Sean Clifford as a guy who could take that jump to first-round status. He had a disappointing senior year. Not a bad senior year, just a disappointing one. He completed just under 62.5% of his passes for under 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And you got the sense that he was helped a lot by guys like Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington. But one thing to note, Dodson isn't going to play in this game. He's going to prepare for the NFL draft. Not a good sign for Penn State. I do like their defense, though. Arnold Ebiketie, Jesse Lukita, Ellis Brooks, Tariq Castro Fields, Joey Porter Jr., and Jair Brown are all talented players. No Derek Tangelo and no Jaquan Brisker, though. They're both opting out for the draft. It's just too many absences for Penn State to overcome. Arkansas is entering this game with a clean bill of health, if I can use that expression. That's going to be the difference maker here. I've got to go with the Razorbacks. Which means that I'm going to need to come up with something else to get when I get my free Outback. I'm not going to get a bloomin' onion and a bloomin' fried chicken. Maybe a steak. Maybe I'll get one of those steaks. The Victoria's filet is excellent. Oh, I'm getting hungry now. Moving on now to the Fiesta Bowl. Oklahoma State will go up against Notre Dame. I loved the Cowboys this year. I thought they were really, really good. Their defense was just insane to me. Quite honestly, it was Georgia level good. Mike Gundy continues to amaze. He is by far and away the best head coach in Oklahoma State history. It's not even close. Their quarterback, Spencer Sanders, really isn't that great. You don't need to worry about him. But you do need to worry about Jaylen Warren. He had over 1,100 rushing yards this year and 11 touchdowns. Also, Tay Martin is a really talented wide receiver. 70 catches for 942 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's insane. Especially when you have a not great quarterback throwing to you. Oklahoma State's O-line is absolutely fantastic. Cole Birmingham, Josh Sills, Danny Godlewski, Hunter Woodard, and Preston Wilson comprise an insane unit. And the defenders that the Cowboys have are insane. Quite frankly, it's too many to go through. It just is. I mean, I don't think Notre Dame has much of a chance in this game, to tell you the truth. I think they're going to be negatively impacted by Brian Kelly leaving. When a coach like him leaves, it's very tough for that team to rally. Unless you have a guy like Bob Stoops as your interim head coach. All due respect to Marcus Freeman, but I would have rather Notre Dame just shot higher. Like, come on, there would be some NFL coaches that would go to Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame. Do I need to say more than that? Again, it's nothing against Freeman. I understand that he has a great reputation. I just would have liked Notre Dame to have gone with a bigger name. The absence of Brian Kelly, I think, is going to be too much for the Fighting Irish to overcome. I like Jack Cohn, local kid. I like Kyron Williams, very talented running back. But all in all, I think Oklahoma State's better. I'm going with the Cowboys. Go Pokes. Moving on now to the Citrus Bowl. Kentucky versus Iowa. The Wildcats had a really under-the-radar good season. Like, they're a really well-rounded team. Give Mark Stoops a ton of credit. It took him a while to right the ship, but he is doing a fantastic job at Kentucky. If an SEC team could ever be underrated, Kentucky's underrated. Will Levis is a good quarterback, completed just under 2/3 of his passes for just under 2,600 yards. 23 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Chris Rodriguez Jr. is a really good running back. He had 1,271 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson had 94 catches for 1,164 yards and 7 touchdowns. This is a good Wildcats team. Defensively, they're a little top-heavy. Josh Pascal, Quandre Mosley, Yusuf Corker, and Tyrell Agian are really, really good players. And Pascal is insane. But after that, it falls off a little bit. I'm not crazy about that. Meanwhile, you look at the Hawkeyes, they have no chance in this game. Tyler Goodson's going pro. He's declaring for the NFL draft. He's opting out of this bowl game. There's no one else who can do what he does. I mean, Gavin Williams has a little bit of talent, but against this Kentucky defense that, yes, is top-heavy, but is also very talented, I don't see that ending well for the Hawkeyes. I mean, Iowa has a great defense. Too many guys to go through. Except I'll mention one, Zach Van Valkenburg. I sincerely hope he becomes a New York Jet. I will buy his t-shirt so quickly, your head will spin. I don't care if he's just there for training camp. I am buying his t-shirt. But without Goodson, Iowa has no chance. Kentucky's going to run away with this game. It's going to be a rout. Be locked into the Fiesta Bowl. That'll be a much better game. Give me Kentucky. Moving on now to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. We have Utah going up against OSU. You may not know a lot about this Utah team, but they're pretty good. I mean, obviously they are. They went 10-3, but they have some talent. Cameron Rising is a solid quarterback. Completed just under 63% of his passes for just under 2,300 yards. 18 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He's a game manager. Utah's offense is get the ball to Tavion Thomas and watch him go. Thomas is insane. He's one of the best running backs in the nation. Had over 1,000 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns. And you know what's crazy? He only played 269 snaps this year. He played in 12 games. Kyle Whittingham just made a concerted effort to not run him into the ground. It paid off. Utah's O-line is absolutely fantastic. Bamadelli Olaseni, Keaton Bills, Nick Ford, Satawa Lamea, and Braden Daniels comprise an incredible unit. And I'm sure I butchered some of those names. I apologize in advance. Defensively, Utah's really, really good. Devin Lloyd, Micah Tafua, Vontae Davis, Nefi Sewell, Hawati Pututau, Malone Mateli, Clark Phillips III. These are really talented players. And again, I know for a fact that I butchered some of these names. Everyone should be named John Smith. We've established this. Meanwhile, you look at OSU, it's kind of tempting to pick Utah. Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are entering the NFL draft. So it's going to be just Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. Kind of easy to key in on just one receiver and let a guy like Jeremy Ruckert or Emeka Egbuka kill you. I'll live with that if I'm a Utah fan. The thing is, though, C.J. Stroud is just insane. What he did as a redshirt freshman is nothing short of incredible. Completed just under 71% of his passes for over 3,800 yards, 38 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Travion Henderson is a really talented running back. Over 1,100 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns. And defensively, the Buckeyes are stacked. Zach Harrison, Tyleik Williams, Bryson Shaw, Ronnie Hickman, Denzel Burke, and guys like that. No Haskell Garrett, though. He's going into the draft. I mean, it's tempting to pick Utah. There's no question. There's a part of me that wants to pick them, but C.J. Stroud is just light years better than everyone else in this game. All due respect to Tavion Thomas, but I'll take C.J. Stroud. The Buckeyes are just better, even with their absences. I've got to go with OSU. The last game to talk about is the Sugar Bowl, Baylor versus Ole Miss. Remember when people pointed to Baylor struggling as proof why Matt Rule's a good head coach? Those people look pretty foolish right about now. Give Dave Aranda a ton of credit for shutting out the noise and having his team play really well. I mean, offensively, there's only one guy who you need to worry about from the Bears, Abram Smith. He had over 1,400 rushing yards this year and 12 touchdowns. I'm not a Jerry Bohannon fan. I don't think he's that good. Even then, he's a little banged up. He has a hamstring injury. He should be good to go. It's just something to keep an eye on. Defensively, Baylor has some good players, no great ones. Jalen Petre, Jaron McVay, Christian Morgan, Terrell Bernard, and Siaki Ika are talented players. Again, I wouldn't say that any of them are great. Ole Miss should have a field day in this game. Matt Corral should go off. Let me tell you, if Corral balls out in this game, maybe, just maybe, there's a controversy for who the best quarterback in this draft is. Is it Pickett or is it Corral? I mean, I've spoken about Corral before. The thing with him is sometimes he abandons the pass a little too early and looks to run very quickly. I don't like that. That is something that can be corrected. But Kenny Pickett has that worked out now. I mean, Pickett's a better thrower than Corral is. Corral's a better runner, but Pickett's a better thrower. The truth is, though, Lane Kiffin in this offense should have a field day against Baylor. And the defense should too. DeAndre Prince, Sam Williams, A.J. Finley, and Kadron Smith are really, really talented players. I mean, I don't see how Baylor wins this game. OSU is just better. Their quarterback is really playing for something. I think he's going to be motivated to absolutely go off. Give me the Rebels. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. For a while, people have been talking about what are the Lakers gonna do next. Are they gonna trade Russell Westbrook? They should. Are they gonna fire Frank Vogel? They should. Are they gonna blow things up? Are they gonna try to make some sort of trade to improve their roster? Well, it seems like the Lakers may be starting a sell-off here, as they are going to trade Rajon Rondo to the Cavaliers. No word on what the Cavs are going to give up in return yet, but the fact that the Lakers are trading Rondo tells me something. It tells me that they may be open to blowing things up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying trade everyone. Obviously, LeBron's going nowhere. Obviously, AD's going nowhere. But a guy like Westbrook, he could definitely be traded. A guy like Melo, he could be traded. Wayne Ellington could go. Avery Bradley could go. This could start a big sell-off in LA. Now, I understand that Rondo was not a big part of the Lakers this year. Only played in 18 games, averaged just over 16 minutes per game, really did nothing when he played. It's not like the Lakers are giving up a true piece of their rotation. But the fact that the Lakers are willing to trade a guy who, at the very least, could hold his own if pressed into duty is telling. I mean, the Cavaliers probably didn't give up much here. At most, a second-round pick and some schmagegi player. If the Lakers had championship aspirations, that's not what I'd want to trade Rondo for. As for the Cavs, this is a perfect trade for them. Ricky Rubio tore his left ACL on Wednesday, so they really needed to add another point guard. I mean, you combine that with the fact that Colin Sexton's out for the year with a torn left meniscus. The Cavs' only point guards are Darius Garland and Kevin Pangos. Not exactly Kyrie Irving and Matthew Dellavedova. I mean, Garland's a really good player. No question about that, but Pangos isn't going to get the job done. I mean, the Cavaliers have such a unique system with the three bigs, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and Larry Markkinen, and Isaac Okoro playing the two, that they really can't upset the apple cart too much. If they do, they're going to collapse. So when you think of Ricky Rubio, you think of a guy who, yes, can score. He's averaging 13 points per game this year, but at the end of the day, he's more well known for his passing and his defense. You know who else that describes? Rajon Rondo. If you were to write down on a piece of paper who the Cavs really needed, it would look a lot like Rajon Rondo. This is an outstanding move by the Cavs. It makes a ton of sense. The Lakers are going to do nothing in the playoffs. We all know that. The Cavs could surprise some people. I mean, they're that good. Their defense is that good. JB Bickerstaff is that good. There's a reason that he just signed a big extension. I'll be rooting for the Cavs. Unless they play the Nets, obviously. It'll be nice to see Jared Allen go off in the playoffs. I'd really enjoy that. I'll close this show out with some NFL Valk talk. No, not on the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm going to do that on Tuesday. There's just too much with the bowl games to go Hall of Faming. It just wouldn't work. It would make this show a lot longer than it should be. I'd feel better saving it for Tuesday. At the end of the day, nothing's going to change. The finalists are still going to be the finalists. So I'll go Hall of Faming on Tuesday. No, I want to talk to you about the Ravens signing Patrick Mekari to a 3-year extension worth $15.35 million. That's a little over $5 million per year. He's getting $7 million guaranteed. And this is a really good move for the Ravens. Mekari is an incredibly versatile offensive lineman. He started at right guard. He started at center. He played a little left tackle this year. Now he's settled in as the Ravens starting right tackle. Obviously, the Ravens were really decimated by injuries on the O-line. Ronnie Stanley, Jawan James, and Tyre Phillips are all on IR right now. I mean, James can technically come back, but how good is he going to be? He hasn't played at all this year. To come back from an Achilles injury like that, that's tough. Yes, Kevin Durant did it, but he's Kevin Durant. Mekari seems to have found a role for himself. He's done a really good job as the Ravens' right tackle. He has a 69.4 overall grade this year, according to Pro Football Focus. I mean, it's kind of funny. Yes, the Ravens have been decimated on the O-line with injuries, but their offensive line has been really good this year. Like Alejandro Villanueva, Ben Powers, Bradley Bozeman, Kevin Zeitler, and Mekari are a really strong unit. This move makes a ton of sense for the Ravens. The contract is more than fair. This makes a ton of sense. I hope you have a great new year. Hope you enjoy watching the ball drop. Hope you enjoy watching the Honeymooners. Hope you enjoy watching some good college football. Something tells me that next year is going to be a very interesting year for me. I don't know why, but I just have that premonition. You'll get a New York Jets instant recap right after their game against the Buccaneers. You'll get a New York Islanders show on Monday night. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next year, I am Jacob Valk saying, shout out to you, Auld Lang Syne.